What's going on, everybody? John Stamper of John Stamper Media, and very excited about this learning series that we're putting together with the amazing team from Alta AI. A lot of exciting things going on in the world of dental technology and AI. And so, of course, anytime I get the opportunity to hear from these team members, especially as you are already seeing and are going to continue to see, this team at Alta AI has just a little bit experience when it comes to dental technology. Many of them, your names that you recognize, but I think what's been great from my perspective is their excitement of putting their energy together, bringing this technology to dental practices, and like Rob said when I got a chance to speak with him, call it like it is, solve problems for the dental practices. So very excited to be with Kellie Law, who is one of the co-founders at Alta AI. Kellie, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks. It's good to talk to you.
Yeah, you
Excited
as
about
well.
what we're doing at Alta.
Yeah, super excited. To kind of get your thoughts on it, and love to maybe start and just have you share a little bit about your history in dentistry, some of the work that you've done. I know you've done a lot in startups, and here we are again. So as we get
Yeah,
to the end of this conversation, I certainly want to get kind of your vision of how to take this and make it real and scalable in dentistry. But let's start with a little bit of your story.
yeah, sure. So love doing startups. I know that's kind of crazy for people, but dentists understand you're starting to practice, same thing. It's a grind. And so been doing that my whole career and really started with Dental Intel from the get-go when we co-founded it, when we founded it and built what is now, kind of one of the premier technology companies in dentistry. And so um, I was the COO there and helped scale the company, to a certain point. And we exited about a couple of years ago and have a new executive team there, and they're doing awesome. And just excited to jump back into dentistry. So one of the things that I decided early on in doing startups is that I wanted to be able to work with people that were great people and loyal to each other. And I wanted to be in an industry where you could really make a difference and have a product that made a difference in people's lives. And I know we did that with Dental Intel. And I'm super excited about Alta AI because I think this is going to make a huge difference initially with hygienists in the practice. So that's what we're targeting, and that's what we're doing right now. And we've built this thing from the ground up. Our former CTO at Dental Intel is with us too, Matt Porter. He and I go way back 20 plus years in actually the voice space, in speech recognition, text to speech, voice over IP, things like that. And so we really understand that voice space, and this product is built to handle the dental practice and the speech recognition.
So, in order to go forward with Alta AI, I'd like to step back a little bit and
Wow.
take you back to early Dental Intel days and what the industry was like back then, what it was like to bring that technology to dentistry. And of course, now that you've jumped into Alta AI, certainly there's been a lot of progress, right, when it comes to
Yeah.
technology in the dental space. Any differences? I mean, I know there are some, but any like differences you see from like beginning of Dental Intel to this? And then anything that is kind of the same.
Yeah. So some big differences obviously is technology, like you said, it's come a long way. And where we really focused initially, we're all, technology or business people, and we really understood business and how to use metrics to drive performance. And so we really took that into dental for the first time and really went where dental had almost nothing to being the thought leader in the industry in a matter of months with Dental Intel. So it was like, new, so brand new type of way of doing dentistry, the business of dentistry in the dental practice, a different way to look at your metrics in the dental practice and to drive performance and patient care in the dental practice using metrics. And so this is kind of a different thing for us where it's not metrics based. It's speech recognition. We're really targeting the provider rather than the business side of it. And one of the things that we noticed at Dental Intel is how crucial the hygiene team is to the success of the dental practice.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do with this endeavor is make their lives easier, enable them to do their job and focus on the patient, and get those charting things done without any big distractions or having to turn to a computer or having to chase down an assistant. And that's what we're really doing right now with Alta AI.
Can you talk a little bit about the convergence of what some of the dental hygiene market has gone through since COVID? The staffing issues and things like that, and
Yeah.
then a technology like this being able to provide the confidence to the practice owner, to the hygienist that those minutes, as you know, are so valuable, and anything that they can do to create efficiencies in their day has such. I feel like it has such a huge impact, more so than even just the details of what the software is, but then more importantly, kind of like the overall impact on the practice with just kind of the current landscape in dentistry.
Yeah, well, you're exactly right. So, we went through that whole COVID ride with dentists and their practices, and one of the big pieces coming out of that, like you said, was people not coming back to the practice. And what by that I mean hygienists, providers, right? And so you have a couple of things where you have some hygienists that are overworked, dentists struggling to staff those roles in their practices, and just the overall push to make the practice run smoothly. And so this solution that we have is your first foray into helping that practice run smoothly, to be able to maybe let them run with a little less staff, be more efficient, like you said, and give the hygienists some technology to help them, which we didn't necessarily do all that much at DI specifically to the hygienist, aside from metrics. But this is really for that provider, and I think they're the backbone of the practice, and we need to support them.
So, Kelly, you've lived in this dental technology space, and I tend to hear a statement when it comes to some of the older demographics in dentistry using technology. I'm a big believer. I think that everybody uses technology, and although you'll
Yeah,
hear people say from time to time, "Oh, well, how are those that have been in dentistry for a while going to manage this new technology? It's very foreign to them." And then, let alone you go into any dental waiting room and you have all ages, right, on their
right.
phones, on their iPads. And so, like, I tend to think that that's a little bit of a misnomer because I really feel like everybody in dentistry in some form or fashion is using technology. But can you talk about just some of the early feedback you've got from the hygienists, from those that you've, had use Alta and what they've been saying about it, more importantly, like what they're excited about?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. So in development of the solution, we worked hand in hand with a bunch of hygienists and getting feedback from them, and some of the things that are built into the product come directly from that feedback from hygienists, whether it's making sure that you know how to eliminate as much of the background noise that exists in the practice as possible, to having a microphone that is comfortable, that works for them, to the way the solution itself prompts them with the things to say at the next steps of the exam, so that they're not wondering what to do.
Mhm.
And then we really had a lot of help with how to handle the exams in and out of the practice management system. So how do you take the data out? How does the hygienist manipulate that with their voice and then put the exam back into the practice management system? All of those things I think have been geared towards really any hygienist that can put a microphone on their head and speak the language that they're used to speaking should be able to use this product, no problem.
So, I know one of the things that you helped amongst a lot of other things at Dental Intel was the operations world. And so, as you are so familiar in this startup space, it's one thing to have the idea. It's
Yeah.
one thing to kind of get it started. It's a whole nother thing to build that operational foundation so that you can
Yeah.
scale it. And more
Yeah.
importantly, you can service those that are excited about it the more that they hear about it and kind of managing that. So I'd love to just get your perspective, bringing this new technology into the space. Obviously, you guys have an extremely experienced team, but operationally, what can you share for those that are watching this dental practices of some of the forethought that you've put into this of like, what, like not only is this a great technology, but, we really feel like we're going to be able to support the excitement of getting it deployed.
Yeah, that's a great question. So one of the things that we learned early on, with any technology in the dental practice, adoption is key. And adoption is not a given in a dental practice. You've been doing something one way for many years. You have a tendency, it's hard to break those tendencies and to go with something new. And so from going from zero to over 8,000 practices served it when we were at Dental Intel, we learned a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like how to onboard, how to scale it, how to serve the practice as well, how to get them. We got to a point where we were responding to questions from practices within seconds, because they when they send you a question, that means they have a break in between patients or something. And if you wait minutes, they're gone again. And then
Right.
you have this back and forth. So all of those types of things, we're putting all of those things into practice here with this solution, and especially the adoption piece, which I mentioned earlier about how the product kind of teaches you itself. But the onboarding phase for us is going to be really quick. The training is easy. We make sure that the team has the correct setup, the correct microphones, that everything's functioning correctly, so they can really just jump in and start using it.
It's interesting when I think back of what you all had to do at Dental Intel, not only was the technology exciting, but as you know, at that time, data in a dental practice they weren't kind of seeing eye to eye, right? Meaning like a
No.
lot of the dental practices, only the early adopters in those early days kind of could see how to take the looks and the dashboards you are all giving them within their practice and figure out how to use them. And of course, in the hands of great consultants with, I know you guys worked, with for years, but you had to do a lot of educating just on the sense of the value of data, let alone the technology. So,
Right.
any similarities here, or do you feel like we're living in a world where, fortunately, we're all used to, in some form or fashion, this technology? I mean, I think about it now, like my 9 and 10-year-old, like every time they go to turn on the TV, like they talk into
Yeah.
it, right? And it's like
Yeah.
every once in a while, like I try to do that, it doesn't quite work the way that it's supposed to, but I know it's user error, not them or not the technology.
Right.
But
Right.
yeah, any kind of similarities or differences with kind of what you feel like is the hygienist and the teams being able to hop right into this thing and really get the results out of it.
Yeah, exactly. I actually think there's a huge difference now between what we're doing here and what we did at Dental Intel. Dental Intel was really helping people learn, relearn the business, right? Relearn how to drive performance and patient care through metrics. This is like I was at my father-in-law's house the other day, and he's what, 85, and he's like, "Hey Siri," right? So everybody knows "Hey Siri" or "Hey Alexa." And this is a similar thing, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
just you're just talking to it. And so I think from that standpoint, adoption is much easier. And the fact that this doesn't fundamentally change anything about how they're doing their work.
Yeah.
They're speaking the same words that they would speak to an assistant. They're doing the same hygiene work and same exam that they would do. So we're trying to more fit into their world as opposed to teach them a whole new thing. So from that standpoint, I think there is some pretty big difference between what we did at Dental Intel and what we're doing now. And we've seen that where practices and hygienists can turn this thing on and start using it.
Yeah, and I think also too, as you know, with the emergence of AI and especially some of the different case acceptance AI platforms that are out there, I feel like patients now, this whole movement towards patients wanting to be involved in their dentistry. As you know, coming into the practice in many cases, asking like a practice, like what technologies are you using? Are you using AI? I think what's excited about what you guys have done here is, as you know, like the patient when they're in that chair, especially for their perio charting, they have to be enamored, right? By like,
Yeah.
what does that mean? Like, what is a one? What is a five? Is that good or is that bad? And like, I feel like this trend of patients knowing and understanding more about their oral health benefits everybody. I feel like it makes things easier for the practice when it comes to case acceptance. So, what are your thoughts on that, especially being able to kind of merge both worlds? A lot of times, as you know, with the technology, like in the case of Dental Intel, is obviously for the dental practice. I feel like with this, you're really getting the patients involved.
Right. Yeah. That's a really good point. And part of the development of this solution is looking towards that what are the next steps for the patient? And you'll see some solutions come out from us in the near future that help with that. When I hear a 1 or a 5 or whatever, does that mean I'm healthy or I'm not healthy?
Exactly.
And helping the hygienist translate that to the patient, helping the patient understand and really helping with that, the ease of case acceptance. So there's some tools there that the patient can use to really understand where they're at as far as health.
I was going to ask you what's next, and that's kind of a good segue, right? Which I know you guys are still working on some things, but I think that's another great question is, a little bit of the vision of this moving forward. And it's interesting, Kelly. I think what's been so fascinating about technology is I've had the opportunity to speak with a lot of dental companies is that unlike a physical product that gets made and brought to market, what I've seen in this technology space, especially with software, is the closeness between a company like Alta AI and the practice. Like you mentioned, the feedback you're able to get from the hygienist and what this really means for dental practices out there that are watching this, which is, as you have these ideas and things like that, it's so cool to be able to communicate with the company because I feel like that in the software world, not always everything, but there are a lot of things that you can add and update as you guys evolve. So, I mean, is there, even just in this early process of working with a hygienist, I would imagine that's kind of brought about some even additional ideas that in the future you guys will be able to add to the platform.
Yeah, absolutely it has. And like I said, we're focused on the providers right now and enabling them to do their job more. So we're looking at things like what can they do using this technology away from the practice?
Mm,
When they're thinking about their patients and maybe even driving in the car and do some of the Hey Siri type stuff
yeah.
to really get that information back into their system, back to the patient, that these providers don't just leave the office and stop thinking about their patients. A lot of times they're thinking about, that case that they had today or that patient that they're worried about. So that's one piece that we're looking at. Again, like I mentioned, is helping patients understand better their health, and then really allowing allowing them to do their job the way they want to do it and record those things regardless of practice management system. So when I
Yeah.
started, when I started, we were like, there's 3 practice management systems. This is 10 plus years ago, right? Open Dental, Eaglesoft, and Dentrix. And now there's a bunch more, but the percentage of practices using Open Dental, Eaglesoft, and Dentrix hasn't shifted a ton. And so
Right.
and so changing a practice management system inside of a practice is difficult. And sometimes it's hard for those practice management systems to bolt on enough solutions to make a difference in the practice. So that's where we feel like we're doing this, like we did at Dental Intel, we're doing this to augment what the practice management system does and help them to do their job more efficiently and really get the patients the care that they need.
So you got me thinking, with a future vision state of them being able to do a Hey Siri while they're in their car, like I foresee like fast food drive-throughs getting educated on ones and twos and fives and what that means, right? When someone's in their
Yeah.
car picking up dinner for their family and getting into a chart. But I mean, we laugh about Bob, but you're right. Like I feel like this remote world, the practice being able to do some of the additional work that puts stress on them when they're there and potentially being able to do that at different times of the day really opens things up, which is super exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just anything we can do to, as you know, from being in this industry, it can be a high stress environment.
Yep.
You're moving quickly and that extra time to breathe, and think about your patients is probably key in getting them the care that they need.
So the last thing I wanted to ask you is, because I know that you really know and appreciate this, looking at this through the operator lens in a startup. There's the technology and then there's the team. There's the
Mhm.
people that are actually going to make that happen. So can you just take a couple minutes and speak to this team that you've assembled? And I think from your perspective, what you're most excited about?
Yeah, so when we started Dental Intel, we started this company, the mantra for me is the same. Are there great people? Are we loyal? Are we hardworking? Do we want to make a difference in these people in our customers' lives? And so this for me fits the bill completely with everybody coming from a dental technology background, being in that industry, but not only that, me having, 10 plus years of working with some of these people has been amazing. So we hit the ground running with the product, with building out the operations, with looking at onboarding and how do we get in front of enough practices to get enough feedback for the product. All those things have been great. And so, I know you're going to interview pretty much the whole team, and
Yep.
I think you'll find too that they're second to none as far as being able to accomplish what we want to accomplish.
And the best thing, as you know, Kelly, I mean, sometimes getting your sales and marketing team on the same page is not easy. When I think about like Jake in marketing and Miles in sales, like for the most part, I joke with them, like they're actually getting along and they're working together, which can be challenging for sales and marketing, right? But
It is. Yeah. Yeah, I was talking to Jake this morning, and I was kind of joking around with him about the banter that goes back between sales and marketing, and
of
that's
course,
exactly what it was. He was like, "Hey, Miles and I have such a great relationship, and that's really key." And bringing Tenley Nelson into this
no
with
question.
her
Yeah.
experience in the industry and in
Yep.
business development and partnerships, we feel we've got the trifecta there as far as being able to grow the business.
Super exciting. Well, Kelly, congrats. I know there's definitely a buzz in the industry and it's been a pleasure to speak with you and super excited to see not only kind of this initial launch, but I think with the team that you've all assembled and most certainly your experience in technology, where this is going to go in the future, most importantly for dental practices. So best of luck and look forward to speaking soon.
Great. Thanks a ton, John. Appreciate it.
Yeah, you got it, Kelly. Take care.